Hey guys, Dan Got Thunder here with another Smite patch notes update. Going through the mid-season patch and patch halfway point, I guess, bonus update they call it, whatever. And the new 7.8 patch. So let's see. First one is Shadow Steel Shuriken. This is the anti-heal on crit Shuriken. It's cheaper, 10 more power. Yeah, that's about right. I don't know if the old ADC build is really viable at this moment. I think it really is, except for you're replacing Executioner with Atalanta's bow. But they're going to increase this to make it a little more viable. Still a counterpick item, but it's got its uses, especially if you're at like that 70-80% crit rate. Golden Blade is going to get a decrease on attack speed and decreased minion AoE damage. I think the big thing is that it's cheap. It's a bridge item, essentially, even though they've been kind of going away from that concept of bridge items in this game, which is a little bit kind of a shame, but Golden Blade does a very good job of that still, and I think it still does the job they want it to. I don't think that 50% matters too much. Maybe in for some solo lane matchups this is going to matter, but I found if you're hitting big minion, they usually got like twice the HP of the littles anyway. Serrated Edge is just getting a flat 150 gold increase. This was the item that becomes extra potent when all of your abilities are down except for your ultimate. But I don't know. I don't think this matters too much. It's good that they increase the price, obviously, because you get it a little bit later. But I don't know. I think this probably is going to need more adjustments. I think maybe decreasing its base stats while letting it still remain very vicious while all of your abilities are down, just to reward that kind of gameplay. Spear the Magus. This thing needed a nerf. 150 gold increase. Good. Decreased duration of the passive debuff from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. Good. Increased cooldown of the passive from 10 to 15. Good, but I still think this needs a... The question is, I think, what happens if you have multiple spears? Because I think this was a very good item on Guardians, and I don't know if you can get multiple procs of the item off if it's a shared cooldown like Spear the Magus cooldown, or if it's Spear Magus from the mid versus Spear the Magus from the Guardian. So I think this item is strong enough to warrant it on Guardians and supports. As it is, we'll see. I think 110 power with 10 pen and that 7.5% passive is still absolutely worth buying, but maybe swap it up with Spear Desolation. Instead of it being your second item that you rush, get it maybe fourth item now. Heartseeker, 10 physical power flat reduction. I don't know why they decided to give this thing 10% pen and decrease the price. That was fucking stupid. Put the price back to 3,100 and maybe this will still be a good but not busted item. This doesn't change too much. 15 magical power reduction on Soul Reaver, doesn't change anything. Still buy it. Typhon's Fang, 10 more magical power than intended, okay. Ring of Hecate, increase the cost by 100. The ring tree has this weird problem where the first two levels are very cheap, but the third items are very expensive. They also removed the healing increase per stack on the item's passive. Doesn't matter. This is still a really good item. Get it? This is Devo's Gloves plus a Kaival. 100 more gold doesn't change anything. This is still a very early pickup on any auto attack character. It's not going to be as good, it brings them in line, but this is still very powerful and worth doing. That should tell you how good the item was. Warrior's Bane, it used to actually be better than Tier 3 Titan's Bane. Now it's not. They've put it in line to where they want it. Cool. Soul Eater is getting a 10 physical power decrease, along with 5 off of the evolved version. Probably necessary. Gods like King Arthur. It's a lot more dangerous to play as King Arthur now than it used to be, but he's still very, very good. Hand of the Gods is doing a little more. Whatever. 30 damage at the start doesn't matter too much. It's just like one auto. Bacchus is getting his changes reverted. He's also was one of the main beneficiaries of Golden Blade. Now that's being nerfed. And Serrated Edge. He did like Serrated Edge too. Eat Minion. It's 15% less physical power scaling off the heal and a little bit less protections. Not a big deal. I don't think this really changes anything. I think those item changes are a bigger deal. Kabalzadz. He's getting 2 less defense and 2 to 10 less heal off of the Devour. But you weren't leveling the Devour first most of the time, and it's 3 hits. So he's a little bit less tanky now, but I don't think this matters. Kabalzadz is still excellent. Jakulu is getting 10 damage less on the projectile and the dash. 20 less damage off his dash. Okay. And also 20 less at level 1 off of his basic attack. That's the giant rectangle, the Sever. I don't think this is a big deal. This will bring him to be less ridiculous, but he's still going to be ridiculous. Ryzen's poke, especially at higher levels of play, can be very difficult to fight against. Now that he can clear lane effectively in the early game, we're reducing the scaling slightly because he's still really, really, really good. I don't think he's quite top of the meta good, but 5%. This is 20% because he gets 4 hits. Not a bad change. I think this is fine. I don't think you'll feel it too much, but this will probably make him a little bit less oppressive. So I think the only changes that are really Chikulu going down to a manageable level, and I think Bakasura is going to be back to being fairly okay, not awful, but maybe not top of the meta. Rattata, he is getting a 10. This is the health acorn that heals him. 10 less power doesn't matter. And dart bonus damage going from 40 to 35% bonus doesn't matter. The thing is that the dart can crit. That's the problem. It gives you crit, the dart can crit, and then Rattata can fucking crit like a hunter. Except better, because he has boots that can give him crit. All he needs is boots and rage, and he has an innate 60% crit and crit off of a crit dash. Fucking tack on a Deathbringer, and he has empowered crits at an 85% frequency. So crazy. This does not matter. Now, the 10 power is a little more impactful because that's like the only source of power you get off of Rattata. But the 7% mana, like a full cycle of his abilities, gives him over a fifth of his life and mana back. And remember, he gets more life off of this. Still ridiculous. Rattata might not be SS tier, but he is still amazing. So, new character, Tsukuyomi. Let's talk about him at the very end. While I'm on this, Project Olympus, don't care. Atmospheric fog cannot be moved. Okay, whatever. Rattata is going to get the glow back. Good. Holy crap, this is a lot of bugs, because this game is a broken, messy pile of shit. Cool. Conquest map lighting, whatever. Infernal Ritual inflicts a large amount of AoE when hit. Centaurs, the speed buff is going to get more damage, which is good. Mask item tree. Rynda's Mask is going to decrease your damage taken from 25% to 20%, so that is going to be a bit of a buff. This is the damage amplifier for non-damaging characters. Lokis Mask is increasing protections and health. This is the defense item for non-traditional defensive characters. I don't think either of them is going to be picked up at all as a result of this. You might see Rattata supports picking up Lokis Mask, but that's maybe about it. Bumba's and Messenger's masks are no longer in the game. This was the you're weaker, but you move like a fucking bullet mask. Okay. Stone of Binding. This is the only... Yeah, this is the only cheap item available in the game, so it's the only bridge item. They've done away with everything else. Now provides 10 MP5. This is a good change, especially if you're... But I think this is more of a mage... This is more of a mage or guardian solo lane pickup, rather than a support pickup, because this doesn't do as much for a support, I don't feel like. Still a good change. Stone of Binding was fairly underpurchased. Reinforced Boots and Reinforced Shoes and Greaves is getting a 50 health increase. Other players everywhere rejoice. Yeah, I think this was a little bit underpurchased. These were underpurchased compared to the other ones. I think even cooldown boots and traveler shoes especially were much more usable options for your support characters. This helps to bring it in line a little bit, but maybe, who knows, maybe they needed to be nerfed. I think maybe that would have been the play. Achilles. Achilles was heavily nerfed a short while ago, and mid-season adjustment metas only served to hurt his metrics even more. That's because people are apparently fucking idiots. Achilles was fine. I thought he benefited off of the mid-season adjustments. He now seems to struggle in most solo lane matchups because people are not very good. We are boosting the shield of Achilles' base damage to help him clear better in poke in the laning phase. Increase the base damage by 20 at all ranks. Holy shit. Yeah, that's Achilles is great, still. He was always good. Now he's great again. I think he's just probably the most evergreen warrior you can get. Because he has stun on command, that's incredibly hard to miss, because you just walk up to him. He can kill, you can play him jungle, credibly, and he has an execute off of a warrior. And it still does a lot of damage. It's really good. Achilles is great. So you're an idiot if you don't play him. So, pick him up. Athena tends to be a solid option in competitive play, but more on the fringe everywhere else. That's because she only has one real form of CC. Her ultimate highlights skilled players who want to better reward Athena players who really know when to help their teammates caught in a bad situation. Like people that don't fucking use it as a glorified teleport. Sorry, I had to get that one off my chest. Increase the damage mitigation from 20% to 30%. I think this is a good change. I like this. It doesn't buff Athena's power directly, but it increases her utility. I like that. This is a good change. A Wheelix. Increase the base mana and her MP5 so she can cast more stuff. A Wheelix has had moments of shine, but even in strong matchups she struggles. She does not. Feather Step. Increase the base damage by 10 at all ranks. Summon Suku is much easier to cast now. Increase stray speed on Suku by charging hard cap. Movement speed from 225 to 275. Okay. Updated abilities. Okay. Fix an issue. Okay. So this is just a lot easier to cast and you move faster when strafing. I think you had a lot more forward speed, but nerfed side-to-side speed on Suku. Which makes sense. I think the mana cost is really cheap because you can also, I believe, you can also leap and deal damage off the same proc. So you don't have to cast it twice. I could be wrong on that. Wheelix is one of my worst characters, if not my worst. But I think there are matchups where a Wheelix is always just going to be very good, and in the hands of skilled players, a Wheelix is scary. So I feel like this is a character who rewards your mastery of her more than needing changes to be in the meta. So I think this is a character where I have seen people go, 22, 3, and, 6 in a 20-minute game in Conquest, and then I've seen people just, fucking feed their brains out on her. So I'm in the latter camp. I'll admit it. I feel like that's the kind of character she is, and if you just increase her power so that even dumbasses like me can leverage it, you're just going to make her too powerful in the hands of those experts. We'll see. Bacchus, Belch of the Gods. Increase the base damage by 5 per tick. He gets 4 ticks off of this, if memory serves. So this is 20 damage at all ranks. That's a pretty big one. He's a perpetual meta pick in non-conquest game modes. With ability to mitigate. He's still struggling, even with changes to Chug last year. Most of which you walked back, guys. We're increasing the Belch. We'll see. I think that I wonder if it's just his playstyle that's no longer as useful. He's a very dive-heavy character, which I feel like plays better in modes like Arena rather than Conquest. So I wonder if that's the root problem. Bostet is not very good anymore. So they increase the power off for jump by 10%. Doesn't matter. Kabrakan. Seismic Crush now no longer suffers from diminishing returns. Cool change. I like that. Will it help? I don't know, but I think that's cool. No, Seismic Crushes is 1, so I think that is actually a pretty good change. That's actually a good power spike, too. Tremors, no longer Tremors minions, so we've all, as Kabrakan players, have had the minions just swirl around us like a whirlpool. Won't happen anymore. Apparently, it pulls them directly towards us in a more predictable fashion. These are good, logical changes. They'll feel good without being oppressive. Chalk, everyone's favorite voice pack. What? Can be a solid god pick if you don't know how to play solo lane, but never quite a top pick because its ceiling is somewhere around where your shoes go. Mid-season 7 is no different. So 2-second cooldown on his heal / slow / attack speed slow field. Chalk is still the same character. He just doesn't do anything in the end game. He's an ult bot and then soaks up a lot of damage and then just doesn't die. He just doesn't bring anything. That's his core problem. He has good poke. He's very safe in lane. He just doesn't do anything. That's his problem. That's always been his problem. Cullen. Barb Spear is getting an... I don't know why he's getting a buff. Another guy that was able to leverage Gladiator's Shield really well, but the Changed Warrior's Blessing more than compensates for that for him. Idiots. 1 second cooldown reduction on all ranks. This helps Cullen. Cullen was already pretty good. Isis. I think Isis was fine, but suffered because there were so many other really good mages. 2 second cooldown reduction on Spirit Ball. That's actually a pretty big buff. Spirit Ball can chunk, yo. Good change. Maybe this brings her back into the meta. I'm not sure. I'm also not a good Isis player, even though there are mages I play well. I just don't... For some reason, I'm just bad at Isis. That's going to get me on a watch list. Anyhow, 2 second cooldown, that's probably going to help. Will it be enough to push her into the high meta? I don't know. I'm going to say no. Osiris is getting 5% damage reduction at all ranks onto the Judgment Tether. Yeah, Osiris, I think, took a hit this patch because he was someone who really did need Glad Shield. Also could use Berserker Shield, not as well. He was actually pretty good with both, but he was just so much better with Glad Shield. Still bullies early game, better utility in the team fights. Yeah, he needs something to do late game, and this will give him something to do late game. So I think that's a good change. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. I think the Tsukuyomi... Oh, shoot, I need to go to Tsukuyomi. Okay. We're doing this in one take. Shingetsu and Mangetsu, he has basically these giant blade Tonfa hybrid things. Mason Yang from Kessen 2 wants to have a word with him. Or the art team, anyway. Para Shingetsu, I think it's like after like 2 hits. I think I was saying it didn't happen on the first hit with these weapons. Gains 50% cleave and restores some mana. Empowered Mangetsu does bonus damage and restores health. Okay. So that's his passive. He doesn't really have too much of a passive other than he gets a little bit of extra sustain. That's not a big deal. I don't think he has a really amazing passive, which is fine. First ability is Dark Moon Shuriken. Flings a Shuriken that damages enemies and stops onto gods. If he gets close, he can pull the Shuriken out of their face, and he can reduce cooldown. He also gets a ranged basic on his next basic attack and steals movements. And I think it's the second shot steals movement speed from what I saw. But don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. It could be both. I think it's the Shingetsu that steals movement speed, and that's actually really potent. The one thing I don't quite know is if stealing movement speed is programmed as 25% slow and 25% speed up. Because the thing is, he has multiple abilities that proc slows. Winged Blade can be a very strong counter. So, Shuriken will get 40% reduction. It's 285 plus 90%, which is actually a pretty strong wave clear ability. This is primary wave clear because it cuts through. If you're fighting into him in lane, if he's in solo or hunter, you're gonna see him in hunter a bit, I think. They mention him being a solo character because literally every character can solo if you're stupid enough. Hi. But I think you actually will see some people trying to leverage his 1 and his 3 to be a pseudo-ranged character. So just stand in front of it and you'll get hit, yeah, but he's going to be fucked by wave clear. 10-second cooldown though. Pretty good ability for the first one. Kasane Gama, he basically swings, it's an arc from left to right, which I think is the opposite direction of the Shangad dance. And then he has another hit, so it's like Bludgeon off of Bologna. It's like the Bologna 2, but with a disarm and a stun on it. And it's a lot of damage. Excuse me, that is 425 plus 130% scaling. While channeling, he moves faster and cannot be knocked back. Kasari Gama is bloated. That is a lot of things it does. It disarms, it stuns, and it hits like a fucking truck. 425 base damage. Plus 130% scaling off of that. That's pretty nutty. So I think this is the ability everyone's going to sleep on. But this thing's good. Silver Moon Caltrops, it erupts. Yes, I know it's 1:30 in the morning, computer. Thank you. Erupts into starlight, sends stars falling. It is a moon AoE ability. It's a moon-shaped AoE, and you can launch it at a reasonable distance. Damages enemies in the area, slows them down. Enemies that move are slowed. Just for the record, if you stand still in the middle of it, you don't have anything happen to you, but everything else that happens because you're not moving is also problematic. The slow isn't that oppressive, and after casting the ability, your next basic attack becomes ranged, and it does true damage. 5 plus 40% of your physical power as true damage, so you're looking at like endgame, like an extra 105 off of your basic attack as true damage. And it's only starts at 40 mana. I think this is you level at 1, 2, 3. Because that's kind of nuts. This is a lot of utility, and I think that bonus true damage off the range has got a lot of value on itself. I think you're going to see this come down to like 25%, along with some other changes. His ultimate, Piercing Moonlight, he fires like 4 lasers, and like pew 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 pew. Very quickly fires 4 lasers. Enemies hit, take damage, and are marked. Each beam can mark up to 3 gods. He can get up to 12 marks. And then he charges forward, and he does a lot of damage to them as well. He ends his dashing when he hits someone, so like if you use it to finish someone off, you hit them, but they're under their own tower, you're going to be under their tower. So you can be in a very bad position when you use Piercing Moonlight. The one thing that's not clear, that they did not make clear in the video, is what happens when you hit someone, the same character, multiple times. So if you hit 2 gods, let's just say you have God here and a God here, and they're lined up, and you just hit them 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, you will bounce back and forth between them like a much more dangerous version of the Neja Ring Toss, with no mitigation of damage. Which means if you hit 2 enemies repeatedly, they just fucking melt. Because you just hit them for like 440 plus 80%, and then you're hitting them for like another 850 plus 200% scaling. Nothing's surviving that. So, but it's not clear what happens if you hit 1 god over and over with nothing in between. Because you can't, does he like dash away then just re-dash into them? They actually never showed that in the video, which is a big shame. But I think otherwise, this character has a lot of cool things going on. I think Tsukuyomi is going to be fun. I think his second best position is going to be as an ADC. Not solo. I don't think he has enough. I think he needs power, and he doesn't have enough to bring to the table outside of solo lane. Because this is not a lot of healing. This is chip healing. And I don't think this would even be enough to sustain you through a minion wave in like short of like 5 items in. So I think it's going to be jungle with a little bit of hunter. You'll see people try hunter. You might see a couple of SPL games of him as a hunter, but I think he's eventually going to fall off in that department. But I don't think he's a serious solo lane candidate. Not with as little sustain as he has. And not with as much. He builds at this stage he builds into power so well that I don't think you can reasonably do so as a solo. Solo, I think nowadays wants to be more of a hybrid-y approach rather than a pure tank. And I don't think he really wants to be a hybrid, and I don't think he wants to be tank. He wants to be full damage. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video, share on your social medias of choice. Take care, and I will catch you guys all